Well, I guess an announcement would be that I'm going to have a grandbaby here.
Maybe today, a girl.
Oh.
So number 2 by birth. The second point is I'm from Rancho Cordova, so Aerojet started with their jet-assisted takeoff, has been a huge part of our community forever. And then aerospace is a remarkable subject. I got an envelope addressed to Kenneth William Cooley. Evidently, it was a big deal to write to the President of the United States with a Project Mercury stamp on it from 1962. Yeah, May of 62. So great to be here at a hearing. I did not pursue the sciences, but I'm mightily impressed. And my first neighbor in Rancho Cordova, Vern Hudson, was on the team there at Aerojet in the 60s, 70s.
We'd like to thank you. You're wonderful. Obviously, we could spend a lot more time here with you today. It was just super. We hope to see you again. And thank you. We'll move on to Women in National Laboratories and Research Centers. Dr. Melina Hill, Aerospace Corporation, Dr. Tamara Jernigan, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And I think what we'll do is we'll invite also Women in Academia, Dr. Deborah Larson, California Polytech State University San Luis, and Women in Professional Societies, Dr. Sandra Magnus, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. So we'll have all of you up here since our time is getting shorter and it'll save time. And
over in front of you, Tammy.
we'll start with Dr. Melina Hills.
Thank you. So I'm Melina Hills. I'm the Vice President of Space Program Operations at the Aerospace Corporation down in El Segundo. So we're a nonprofit, we run an FFRDC similar to RAND as well as JPL. My group, Space Program Operations, is responsible for all of the mission assurance on the Air Force's satellite systems. So the GPS systems, the space-based infrared surveillance systems, the military communication systems, and the space superiority effort. I've been there 29 years, and I've had an interesting and very varied career. But I want to take you back to Walnut Creek in the 1960s and the 1970s. Like many of the other panel members, I'm a product of the public school system, and I was an outdoor kid, so I like to go to Mount Diablo, and I was very fortunate that my elementary school teachers took us on a lot of field trips. So there is one in particular that I remember that really sparked my interest in science. This is going to be slightly gory, so hopefully that's okay. So I remember going out with Mrs. Helrick, and we were walking in the foothills, and we came upon 2 skeletons. One was a doe, and the other was a fawn. And our science teacher asked us, so what do you think happened to them? How did they die? And so, boys tend to be more forward in answering questions. So one of them said, well, it probably died in childbirth. And, I was thinking, I really want to get this answer right. And I started thinking, and I said to her, no, I don't think that can be right. The fawn's in the wrong position, and it's too big to come out of the mother's stomach. So I think it was probably killed by something. And she said, yes, it was probably killed by a coyote. So at that moment in time, I realized, boy, the science stuff, I could probably do this and get this right. It was something that I was really interested in, was a lot of fun, and I felt really good about it. So I think it's very important to treat these sorts of outings not just as good to do things, but things that might really spark interest in kids. And while I work in the aerospace industry now, my route into that industry came from a love of ecology. That was the time when there was a movement to save open space in Walnut Creek and to preserve the environment. The way I got into engineering was I was in college, I was taking a chemistry class, and somebody, and I don't even remember who it was, suggested, well, why don't you try engineering? So I tried out a chemical engineering class, and what I found there was that I really enjoyed the power of being able to explain the way things work. So I like to be able to explain how fast water is going to flow, how much water is flowing, to be able to explain to you why you need a expensive platinum catalyst in your car's exhaust system, to explain how steel works, and so on. So that was the route that took me into engineering and chemical engineering, and then over into surface chemistry, and then into the aerospace industry. So my career has moved quite a bit, but I've had the opportunity to move to areas that were very interesting to me, and I've had the opportunity to learn a lot. So I'd like to talk a little bit now about the problems with STEM. So as all of us know, women and underrepresented minorities often opt out of science and math education early in their careers. So Madeline talked about the imposter syndrome, which we've certainly seen in other areas. And there are a lot of other factors, though, and we need to make sure that we're all doing what we can to keep these students involved in STEM as long as possible. So since women in certain minority groups are significantly underrepresented in STEM fields in education, it can create a false perception that those groups should not be involved in STEM, that STEM is for an elite few, and that perpetuates a vicious cycle where a perception becomes reality. Students don't see role models like them, and so they don't take STEM seriously. In addition, teaching STEM without sensitivity to people's backgrounds and experiences tends to perpetuate that stigma that STEM is for the elite, that it's either boring or it's irrelevant or just too hard, and we need to put an end to that line of thinking. We need to get to know our students and figure out what is that spark that is going to get them interested and keep them interested in staying in science and math. So to solve that problem, we need to continue to implement and improve national STEM academic standards. We need to help the schools across the country make the most effective use of their limited resources. And the next generation science standards and Common Core are potentially strong steps in the right direction. Members of the community who have educational experience and financial resources need to give back to the underserved communities, not just where their kids are, but all communities. Our schools desperately need volunteers and mentors to help shape the lives of students, particularly after school. At schools, we need strong teachers, and they need to support creativity in the classroom. STEM must be presented as the gateway to possibility that it is, and teachers are responsible for making the STEM subject matter relatable and fun, just like they did it for me. So teachers need to be well-trained and passionate. The schools themselves must take responsibility. If budgets are thin, then hard decisions must be made about the types of courses that are offered. Since STEM jobs are increasing in numbers, it's vital that our schools maintain a strong curriculum. So one issue that we have seen recently is that the turnover of teachers is so fast in some schools that they no longer have a STEM coordinator we can even reach out to. So we've actually had schools drop out of our programs because there wasn't any way to staff them. Parents must also be involved. With limited resources, schools can only do so much for students, yet the amount of influence a parent can have in a student's life is tremendous. So parents must feel included as well. Schools and parents have to work together. Policymakers and government officials like yourselves have a tremendous platform for communication. You can champion STEM diversity, you can influence budgets, you can prioritize education, especially in underserved areas. You must also make sure that we're hiring high-quality teachers in our schools and incentivize them for success. In the business community, we have a job also. Businesses have the jobs that students will one day apply for, and we need to make sure that pipeline is out there. We can provide internships and outreach programs that offer a hands-on experience to students. Encouraging young people to take an interest in STEM will help nurture the next generation of potential employees. Businesses that specialize in producing entertainment should work with schools and students to use their popular content to improve the visibility and accessibility of STEM, whether it's encouraging students to build apps, program computer games, take part in statistical experiments, or watch STEM-based movies in class like that Hot Wheels speedometry one. So the bottom line is that we need to form strong coalitions. It has to be collective. It can't just be one segment. It's got to be business, educators, and policy makers coming together to influence STEM. So at Aerospace, I'll talk a little bit about some of our STEM activities. We bring in about 100 high school and college students as interns over the summer to emphasize their hands-on experience. We also offer a science fair every year, the Herndon Science Fair, and we invite a number of local and middle school kids to demonstrate their own research projects, and they interact with the engineers and scientists. They have to present their research, and so they get some experience in both presenting themselves to an audience, and they also are then judged on their performance and have the opportunity to win an internship at Aerospace also. We have a robotics team that we sponsor where high school students get to build a rocket to perform several predetermined tasks, and we send folks out to different local schools. We have different experiments that they help the students set up. Sometimes we'll teach high school students how to run an experiment. We had one in LaserCom recently, and then the high school students will teach the middle school students how to do it. So it sort of propagates an interest throughout all the kids, and the high school students really enjoy teaching the younger students. So all of these programs are designed to reach out to young people who are on the cusp of their professional careers, and we want to make a difference in that very critical time in their lives. So I'm proud to say that at Aerospace Corporation, over 35% of our corporate officers are women, and over 30% of our board members. In the past 15 years, we've increased the percentage of the female members of the technical staff from 13% to 18%. That's an ongoing activity. We have to use metrics to monitor our pipelines and also to look at the different pipelines to figure out what is being effective in recruiting people and what has not been effective in gaining diversity. We also continue to work on retention. We have mentoring and coaching programs, and these are important in order to make sure that folks are taking the opportunities open to them. When we talked about the not wanting to, the imposter syndrome and not wanting to make a mistake because that will then, make other women look bad. You really have to talk to young women about when we made mistakes. All of us make mistakes, but we recover from them. And these women are not going to take risks that are important to their career. They're not going to take the hard assignments if they don't feel like they can occasionally make a mistake. So all of that kind of coaching is also important to making sure that women are doing their best in their current jobs. So we're practicing diversity and inclusion at the Aerospace Corporation, and we need to expand this to business, political, and the educational communities. We can all do better. In order to make real change, we have to keep working, keep improving, and rededicating ourselves to diversity and inclusion in order to make lasting progress. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you. And on the same topic, Women in National Laboratories and Research Centers, Dr. Tamara Jernigan, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory.
Hello. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Joint Select Committee. My name is Dr. Tammy Jernigan, and I'm a scientist, and I'm a Deputy Principal Associate Director at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Prior to coming to the laboratory, I served as a NASA astronaut, and I had the privilege of flying on 5 space shuttle missions, and I worked with some really amazing people, including my colleague, Dr. Sandy Magnus. And I'd just like to say to the woman who preceded me, I'm glad all these amazing women didn't become astronauts, because, you know, who would design the vehicles and the experiments and test them and make sure that they took our astronauts to space safely and brought them back home? So I think there's tremendous opportunity to contribute to space exploration without riding on the rocket. So let's see. But what I am really here to do today is to share some of my thoughts on how important it is to encourage and support all our young people to consider careers in science and engineering, which is vital to the future of our country. My personal experience tells me that heightened encouragement and support is needed for women, underrepresented minorities, and for all low-income students. I think we all know or have heard that over the next several years, we're going to need many tens of thousands of scientists and engineers to replace the generation that is fast approaching retirement. At our laboratory, where the average age of our workforce is 50 years, this need is particularly acute. So how do we address this problem? How do we encourage people to go into these difficult fields? So in my experience, I have found that talent and hard work are extremely important, but they are not enough. Young people entering these fields also need inspiration, encouragement, and a support system along the way. I have personally benefited from mentors, scholarships, and programs designed to ensure that everyone has access to an exciting career in science and technology. And I am proud to work at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, where fairness and diversity are management priorities and a key element in workforce planning. So let me briefly tell you my personal story, and then I'll briefly describe just 2 of the programs at the laboratory. So I was born in Tennessee, but I grew up in a very low-income, diverse community in Southern California. Many of the families in my community had serious issues, including poverty and addiction. And I really do resonate with the idea for kids, especially in these low-income areas, you really have to get them while they're young. It's very important. But even in this environment, my mother, who was raising 4 kids alone, said that I could do anything I wanted to do, that it was up to me. And also, there were those select inspirational teachers who were willing to provide that extra support to achieve beyond my own socioeconomic status. I was fortunate that I enjoyed reading math and science at a young age, and I always wanted to learn to fly. And I remember that first Apollo mission when we landed Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong on the moon. And I remember walking outside and looking at that moon and thinking, you know, we have put 2 human beings on another celestial body. I mean, what an amazing thing. But even at that time, I did not see myself as part of that enterprise. But later on, success in school and athletics, again facilitated by some inspiring teachers and a dedicated coach, brought admission and scholarships to amazing universities. I chose Stanford and majored in physics, and they provided me with a generous scholarship without which I never would have been able to attend. As an undergraduate, I worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, at Ames Research Center as part of their student outreach programs. And at both research institutions, I had extraordinary mentors who allowed me to work on projects even as an undergraduate. Also at that time, NASA announced that they were selecting women astronauts in science, math, medicine, engineering, and I realized that my career track was aligned with those that NASA was interested in, and I thought someday I might have a shot at space. And it was my Stanford education and my NASA work experience that were instrumental in my selection in 1985. So I truly benefited from those mentors, from those programs, from those teachers who took an interest in me. After retiring from the astronaut program, I joined Lawrence Livermore National Lab. And once again, I was guided and provided opportunities by the lab's most senior management. All along the way, all along my educational path, my career path, there were programs and mentors that afforded me the opportunity to succeed. And what we want for all our young people to realize is that they have a shot at these exciting careers. Currently, women, select minorities, and many low-income students are significantly underrepresented in many STEM fields. but there are important and meaningful steps that we can take to mitigate this serious problem. So at Lawrence Livermore Lab, we support many programs that reach out to diverse groups. So just to mention two of them, one is at Expanding Your Horizons program, and another is our Science on Saturday lecture series. So Expanding Your Horizons is an annual day-long conference designed to encourage 6th through 9th grade girls to consider education and career options in science and mathematics. Livermore National Laboratory, Sandia National Lab, our university partners, were major sponsors of these events, not only in our local area, but also in lower income areas in Contra Costa County and San Joaquin counties. 300 girls from our Tri-Valley area attend 2 90-minute workshops that provide hands-on experience or math-related activities that enable girls to interact with science professionals. In addition, girls also visit numerous career displays and are able to interact with professionals from industry, government, academia, and public service, discussing career and educational choices in a friendly and relaxed environment. In addition to Expanding Horizons, this year's Women in STEM Science on Saturday program is part of a month-long series of free science lectures for all middle and high school students organized around a different theme. And this year our theme was Women in STEM. So the talks are presented by leading laboratory science researchers supported by master high school science teachers. For this year, 5 of our leading women scientists presented on topics such as harnessing nuclear energy and human physiology in the palm of your hand. In addition to inspiring young girls in K through 12 and young women in college, I believe they must be encouraged and supported once they begin their careers in earnest. At our laboratory, we have a Women's Laboratory Association and a Women in Science Committee that provide encouragement and mentoring to women across our employment spectrum. Lastly, I believe that we need a diverse group of both men and women to serve side by side in leadership roles at all levels. We need a diverse group of mentors. We need to leverage the extraordinary potential of the entire workforce, and we need to make it clear that no one is excluded. I am grateful for the scholarship, student programs, and mentors that have so facilitated my career at NASA and at the laboratory. And I implore all of us to work together to ensure that these efforts to continue so that we can realize the brightest future for all. And the last thing I want to say is that I invited my first grade teacher, my high school algebra and chemistry teachers, and my high school physics teacher to my space shuttle launches, that I stayed in contact with them through all those years. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts and experiences, and I'm happy to take any questions.